Thanks for tuning into the channel today. I've been asked a couple of questions on time. For one, how I fitted the gas container at the back of this bike, which at the moment's off because I'm just going to show you in detail about that one. And number two, how I went about fitting that milk rack to the rear of the rack area, like so. So we'll get onto the milk rack first. So it was a pretty simple thing. Naturally, being in Australia, I had plenty of these in stock in different colours, so that wasn't any problem. So the thing to fit in the milk rack, all I did was the wife had a spare yoga mat there, what she wasn't using. So I cut a section out of it and used a non-slip side down onto the rack side itself so it wouldn't scratch the paint. And I went and grabbed a bunch of cable ties I had in stock, and the ones I picked was the 370mm by 7.5. So when you look at these ones out of the packet, they're a nice thick cable tie, and the reason I went that one is for one, I'd probably be carrying a bit of camera equipment on the back of this bike, and I didn't want to take the risk of the cable ties coming loose or snapping or the stuff falling out. And I done it in, so it was very easy to tie them up. So I did two at the back and hit it two at the side, and I just ran one right at the front. So it's been on there a couple hundred kilometres now, hasn't moved at all, and it's just solid now as when I fitted it. So I'm pretty happy with that. No results as far as coming loose or that whatsoever, so it's a really good fit. Doesn't interfere with the little seat, solo seat I bought too. And while I'm at it, we'll get to that little solo seat now, and if you were just wondering how you fit those seats, we'll jump to that. But prior to we getting to that one, if you want to know how to fit the 5 litre gas container to this bike, first thing, if your bike's got the toolkit on the side, you've got to remove the toolkit. So, not that it had that much anyway, it only had a screwdriver in it and a helmet holder. So that's out of the way now. So while we've got the opportunity, we'll now have a look under the rack towards where the little solo seat I bought, and you can see now how it attaches and bolts to the bottom. So even though it may look sort of a bit flimsy on top, it's bolted nice and secure at the bottom. Okay guys, we'll now have a quick look at the 5 litre gas tank you get from the Thailand supplier on eBay. So this works out $200 US for this complete unit, or $300 Australian. So what you get, 5 litre tank, you get your mountain bracket, which says time to trail on it. No doubt it's a well-made bracket, so there's no complaints there. Nice heavy duty one. Got a couple of screws mounted up at the top. These are the units that attach your 5 litre container onto the bracket via these 4 holes there, like so. I better point out these U-shackles that come with the clip. I think are pretty poor quality considering the price of these kits. And when you attach this item here, or both these, into the bracket holder, not much thought went into them, and the thread could have been a lot longer to pull it in a lot tighter and hold the canister a lot tighter onto the base plate itself. Either that or it gets a real wobble in it. So I had the wobbly effect and had to really pack it from behind to keep it tight. But now I've decided I'll just use a few extra washers behind it and get it to hold that way. But that's something you'd have to look at. It's pretty poor in that line, and something you'd have to sort of improve. But I thought maybe the washer's idea will work well with me, and that's why I'm going to go with this, and we'll see what happens in that line. We're going to fit this, and that'll show you the complete product. And then the other one is I'm going to show you in part 2, so I'll break it up into 2 parts. Part 2 will be a way where you can buy this container after that for under $50 Australian, or roughly 35 US. And then I'll show you how I made a rough bracket to store this container on, and you could probably make one yourself at a bit better construction and probably save yourself a couple $100. So that's something to look forward to if you want to go back to part 2. Then you don't get instructions for it. First thing you do is fit side bracket here. That's pretty simple. Big wide one goes on the base plate, little one will go onto the bike itself, so that's out of the way. Like I mentioned earlier, when you look at these shackles, the thread only goes down this far. It would have been better if it would have went down probably another, say, ½ inch. Then you would have been able to put your washer and nuts right down and screw it on tight, but that's not the case. You can't do it, so that ruins that side of it. So if you do that, you're going to get a really sloppy fit. So when you put it here like this and draw the base plate into it and tighten it up from the back, it'll just wobble back and forth, which is no good because your canister will just wobble back and tilt. So the idea is naturally your container has to go side on so it lines up properly in the holes, and I found that's the best way on mine when I tried it side on like so. And don't push them, or in my case I found, don't push it from the back forward, because if you go that way they don't seem to want to fit. Naturally no instructions come with this, so it's virtually trial and error. If for example you try to put your U-clamp through this way and around like so, and then bolt that all in, then you come back to mounting your petrol tank, it's not going to go in. It'll just go to there and it just won't force through that hole. So you've got to swing back in the direction I just said, and we'll go that way. So the best idea really is to have a go and get them in this way first. So if you just press them together and force them through, like so. Get the other one, force it through too. Come up to this base plate. Get it through. Bottom one. And get it through too. Like so. So you've got them all in. Now if you look at it that way, and we bring the tank on top, see, it'll go in nice and flat. So that's the way it's got to go. Well, it appears that's the way it's got to go to me. Now the next problem, or here is the problem. If you look side on now, you'll see what I mean about once it's pushed in. Notice if you put down to the nuts there, you'll run right to the end, you've got all this, so you've got to fill in that extra thing. So that's what I mean, for when you buy the kit, not good enough. It should have come with decent shackles where the thread was either full of threaded to the bottom or something. So I've got to put spacers. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to fill it up here with washers on the both sides, then I'm going to use blue Loctite to hold it together. So that'll be good enough for me, but I would have thought for the money, you know, like the base plate was made separate, but they just bought the cheap canister to go with it. As you'll see now, I've just filled it up with a few washers, not many, 5 each one. Then I'll just use my blue Loctite, run it down the other, now tighten them up. I'm going to try to get a pair of shackles, but I had a fair few of these washers in stock, so I may never use them, so it's just today might have been the day. Of course, if the idea doesn't work, before I had packing in it, and the packing idea worked pretty well behind it and never moved at all in the couple 100 kilometres I was riding it, so that idea sort of worked alright too. But we'll see how this one, soon I pulled it out, it's just another try, so I expect better. But you guys might buy it and say, No, you're wrong, you got a good deal for it, so, you know, you never know with people when they buy, but usually I'll buy anything, but even I think it's a bit crappy, this idea. Yeah, look at that. Nice and tight. So I'll see if I can get a spanner to tighten a little bit more, and that should be good. Yeah, so that now is nice and tight. I'm pretty happy with that. So I think that can be fitted now, so we'll head over to the bike. We're going to use the base plate here. We got a normal hole and an elongated one, so we'll set her up like this. Rip the screws in. Okay, so we'll put the screws in there. There's number one. Number two's locked in. Run the 5mm up into there. That one's in tight. So that's tight. Okay, we got everything's in. While I'm at it, might as well say with this Leatherman I get a fair bit of work with it because I bought it with the extra attachments and the screwdrivers and a few other things, and by the time I've had it, 2 or 3 years probably, I've really got some use with it. So sometimes I carry it out on the runs or on the motorcycle runs with me, and I find it a really good multi-tool, so well worth buying. We got a container, slip her up, put her in. There you go. Nice and tight. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that little bit of a presentation how to fit the 5 litre fuel container to the back of the bike using that supplied bracket. And the next one will be how you can make your own bracket, or a rough idea how to make your own bracket on the cheap and just buy the container and save yourself a couple $100. So that'll be in part 2, so I hope you enjoy that. Catch you later.